Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala rasulihil kareem. Amma ba'd. Alhamdulillah, we have what we can call section 1. We have completed section 1, in which we covered individual words. All our discussion was on single words. Bismillah ta'ala, today we are going to move on from single to combination of words, which is called murakkab. So up till now what we have done is we have been talking about single words, which is mufradun, and its plural is mufradatun. And now we are going to move on from mufrad to combination of words, compilation of words to make phrases and sentences, which is called murakkab. We have already talked about what murakkab is, and the plural is murakkabat. So from mufradat we are going to move on to murakkabat. We can make a start by working on this English phrase. For example, we say a good boy. Good boy. Basically there are two nouns here, good and boy. A is there to make this phrase indefinite. So rather than saying the good boy, we are saying a good boy. So what's happening here is that good is describing the boy, good is defining the boy. Boy, what kind of boy? Good boy, not naughty boy or bad boy. So from the English point of view, good is adjective, and boy is noun. Okay, so adjective is describing or defining this noun. From Arabic point of view, these are both nouns. One noun is describing the other noun. So because one noun is describing the other noun, and the other terminology is descriptive phrase in some grammar books, descriptive phrase. So basically what we have here is descriptive phrase, or we can call this adjective phrase. Adjective phrase. Okay, so that's the English terminology. What about Arabic? In Arabic, adjective is called sifa. We are familiar with this word now. Sifa. And sifa is going to describe the boy, and that noun in Arabic is called mawsuf. So combination of sifa plus mawsuf is going to make a murakkab in Arabic, which is the translation of phrase. Phrase is murakkab. So what kind of terminology then we have here in Arabic? Sifa and mawsuf, they will combine to make a murakkab, which is combination, compilation of words together. And from sifa and mawsuf we have another word, murakkab tawsifi. Tawsifi. So adjective phrase or descriptive phrase, in Arabic we have murakkab tawsifi. So that is the first point in this phrase. The second point is that in English We are now going to call this sifa, and that we are going to call mawsuf, the Arabic terminology. So in English we have sifa first followed by mawsuf. Good, describing the boy. So sifa first, and then sifa is followed by mawsuf. So that is the English phrase and order of words in English. First sifa and then mawsuf. What about Arabic? In Arabic it's the other way around. Mawsuf comes first and then sifa follows, and that kind of makes sense because you want to say boy, then you're going to define what kind of boy. Okay, man, what kind of man. Okay, girl, what kind of girl. So in Arabic, because we read and write from right to left, so first we will have boy, which will be mawsuf, and then mawsuf will be followed by sifa. So it's going the other way around. That's the second point. And the third point is then how we translate this, for which we need vocabulary. So boy, we know it's waladun, a boy, and good is hasanun, hasanun. Okay, so in English we are saying hasanun waladun, good boy, and in Arabic we are going to go the other way around, and we are going to say, translating good boy as waladun, waladun, and what kind of walad? Hasanun, hasanun, waladun hasanun, good boy, a good boy, because this is indefinite. Tanween tells us that both these nouns are indefinite. Waladun, a boy, hasanun, basically a good. That's what we are saying literally. So waladun hasanun, a good boy. So that's our phrase, which is murakkab tawsifi. So the next point is that we said that for correct use of a noun in a sentence, we will have to be familiar with 4 aspects of a noun, and we have worked quite hard on that to make our foundation strong. So what are those 4 aspects? The 4 aspects are i'rab, and then we said is wus'a, which is Marifa and Nakira, which is definiteness. Then we said jins, will have to be familiar with that, whether it's muzakkar or muannas. And then adad, which is number, whether it's wahid, tasniya or jama. So we will have to be familiar with these 4 attributes of a noun for correct use of that noun in a phrase or a sentence. So we have kind of made our first phrase, which is waladun hasanun, a good boy. And what do I mean by all this? What I mean by all that is that let's start working on it. In this case, waladun is muzakkar. Let's start from here. It is muzakkar. Okay. From the jins point of view, from the other point of view, it's wahid. Okay. From the wus'a point of view, it is indefinite, which is nakira, not marifa. And from the i'rab point of view, this is in rafa, waladun, waladan, waladin. So waladun is in rafa. So rafa. So we have these 4 aspects of a noun, and in this case mawsuf is muzakkar, it's wahid, it's nakira, and it's in rafa. Now what happens in murakkab tawsifi is that sifa follows mawsuf, and sifa will have to follow mawsoof in all these four aspects. If mawsoof is muzakkar, sifa will have to be muzakkar. If mawsoof is wahid, sifa will have to be wahid. If mawsoof is nakira, sifa will have to be nakira. If mawsoof is in rafa, sifa will have to be in rafa. And here waladun hasanun, hasanun is following waladun in all these four aspects. Hasanun tallies with waladun. Hasanun agrees with waladun in all these four aspects, and this is very important as far as the murakkab tawsifi is concerned, because the sifa simply have to follow mawsoof. In other words, sifa doesn't have anything on its own right. Sifa cannot be muannas for a muzakkar mawsoof. It has to be muzakkar. If mawsoof is in rafa, sifa will have to be in rafa. We cannot say waladun hasanan, that will be wrong. Or we cannot say waladun hasanin, that will be wrong. We cannot say waladun hasanatun, that will be muannas, that will be wrong. So waladun hasanun has to follow waladun, and has to follow from all these four aspects. Let us make this dual. So now we want to say two good boys, any two good boys. Let's keep it indefinite, any two good boys. And we are going to say in Arabic, from waladun it will become waladani, waladani, two boys, and sifa now has to follow mawsoof. So sifa has to become dual. So waladani hasanani, hasanani. Literally what we are saying is two boys, two good. But in English we don't translate that way. We're just going to say two good boys. So waladani hasanani, two, any two good boys. This is indefinite. Let us make this plural. Plural of waladun is jama mukassar, which is waladun awladun, awladun. So now the mawsoof has become plural. Sifa will have to follow. So sifa of plural of hasanun is also jama mukassar, which is hisanun. So awladun hisanun, some good boys. So what we are saying here is really some boys, some good kind of thing, but translation will be some good boys. So awladun hisanun. What if we make mawsoof muannas? So waladun boy, bintun will be girl, bintun. So now we want to say good girl. So in English, good boy, and then good girl. So we'll see this good remains the same, whether it's boy, whether it's a girl, good boy. But in Arabic that is not going to be the case. We cannot say bintun hasanun. This hasanun will have to become muannas, and we know that in sifa we can easily make muannas from muzakkar. If you remember one of the previous videos in which we discussed two types of indefinite nouns, and one was ism zat and the other one was ism sifa, and there are many others as well, but we just addressed two at that time. So sifa we can always change to muannas by adding ta marbuta here. In ism zat most of the time we cannot do that. Sometimes it's possible, but most of the time it isn't. But in ism sifa we can always make muzakkar into muannas by just adding ta marbuta here. So what we do here is we remove this tanween and give it fatha and then add ta marbuta. So bintun hasanatun, hasanatun, a good girl. Okay, what about two good girls? So that will be kind of dual of this, will be bintani, bintani, and that will have to become dual as well. So hasanatani, hasanatani, hasanatani. So we cannot say bintani hasanani, that will be wrong. Bintani is muannas and hasanatani sifa will have to follow mawsuf and become muannas as well. Plural of that is again jama mukassar, which is bintun banatun, banatun, some girls. Okay, and now we want to say some good girl. We are keeping this indefinite. So banatun, and that will be hasanatun, hasanatun. So here muannas, muannas, jam'a, jam'a, rafa, rafa, and nakira, nakira. So sifa is going to follow mawsuf in all these four aspects, in all these four qualities of a noun. So these were all indefinite. Then we can easily make these definite, and what we have to do is we know that we can add al. So for example here, if we look here, we want to say the good boy rather than say a good boy. So what we're gonna do here is that we're going to make boy definite by adding al. So we are gonna say al waladu, al waladu. So walad, that was waladun, and al has come, al waladu. When al comes, tanween goes. So al of ta'rif, of definiteness, when it is added as a prefix to a noun, tanween goes. So they do not coexist. Al waladu, and that will have to follow now. That will become al hasanu, al hasanu. So al waladu, al hasanu, the good boy. But we know that this hamza of al is hamzatul wasl. So we don't really say al waladu, al hasanu. We tend to combine these because this is hamzatul wasl, hamza of connection, connecting hamza. So what we do is then we combine these. Hamza remains there in writing, it's not pronounced, so it becomes al waladul hasanu, al waladul hasanu. So hamza is there in writing but does not come in pronunciation. So al waladul hasanu, the good boy, and then we can add al everywhere here. Al waladani, al waladanil hasana, hasanani, al awladul hisanu, and al bintu, al bintul hasanatu, al bintanil hasanatani, al banatul hasanatu. So that will become a definite phrase. So from indefinite we can easily make definite just by adding al. So the main point is that sifa will have to follow mawsuf in all these four aspects of a noun, four qualities of a noun, four attributes of a noun, whichever word you want to use. So our vocabulary is very limited here. We have waladun and hasanun, and we have gone through different phrases. At least there are 3 plus 3 is 6, and by adding al that's another 6, that will be 12 phrases. Let's look at another phrase rather than saying a good boy, just for practice. We can say for example, we can say a righteous man or a pious man, P-I-O-U-S, I think, a pious or righteous man. So that's another phrase, indefinite because of a. So man is rajulun, a man, rajulun, and righteous, salihun, salihun, a pious man, or a good man, we can say as well, good as in righteous or pious. So rajulun salihun. Now this is muzakkar, muzakkar, wahid, wahid, in rafa, and it is indefinite and indefinite. So if we make this dual, we can say rajulani, rajulani, and this will become salihani, salihani. Two men, two righteous men. So sifa will have to follow mawsuf, rajulani, salihani, and its plural is again jama mukassar, rijalun, and this will become jama as well, rijalun. This will be jama salim now, not mukassar, rijalun salihuna, salihuna. So it's really in wahid we have rafa, marker of rafa is these haraka, whether it is the ma, fatha or kasra. Here its ani sound is i'rab, and here again una sound is i'rab, but in jama mukassar the same principle applies as in wahid. So rijalun salihuna, that's plural. Then we can say change rajulun to imra'atun, a woman, imra'atun. So now this will become muannas, sifa will have to become muannas as well, imra'atun salihatun, salihatun, a righteous woman. Then we can say imra'atani, imra'atani, that's dual, salihatani, salihatani, two righteous women. And if there are many, then we can say nisa'un, nisa'un, because plural of imra'atun is nisa'un. So salihatun, salihatun, nisa'un salihatun. So these are all indefinite phrases, and then we can add al-rajulus salihu, al-rajulanis salihani, al-rijalus salihuna, and similarly you can do that here as well. So we are not really building our vocabulary here. What we are doing here is trying to understand what murakkab tawsifi is, and two examples but many phrases which we have made from that. Let us move on to some Quranic examples, because end of the day our aim is to study Quran, and Quran will help us to build our vocabulary anyway. So I have written some ayahs here, I would like you to identify murakkab tawsifi in these. Man zallazi yukridullaha kardan hasanan. So kardan hasanan is murakkab tawsifi here. Who will loan to Allah a beautiful loan? So kardan is loan, and what kind of loan? Beautiful loan. Hasanun, it should be kardun hasanun, but here it has been used in nasab, kardan hasanan. Why it is used in nasab, we are not going to know today. Inshallah, one day we are going to fully analyze this whole ayah, but the important thing to recognize, identify here is this is murakkab tawsifi, and this is mawsuf, this is sifa. Qard, what kind of qard? Loan, beautiful loan. So mawsuf comes first, followed by sifa. Here it is indefinite, indefinite, muzakkar, muzakkar, nasab, nasab, wahid, wahid. So this is Surah Baqarah, ayah number 245. It's part of that, not full ayah. Then we have another example. Man yashfa shafa'atan hasanatan yakul lahu nasibum minha. So that's Surah Nisa, ayah number 85, part of ayah number 85. Anyone who intercedes for a good cause, shafa'atun will be in rafa, hasanatun will be in rafa, but here it has been used in nasb, and there is a reason for that why it's in nasb. So shafa'atan hasanatan, but main point is if mawsuf is in nasb, sifa will have to be in nasb as well. So we cannot say shafa'atan hasanatun or hasanatin. If it's shafa'atan, it will have to be hasanatan. And another point to note here is that when we write a noun in nasab, we add alif here, but when it ends in ta marbuta, we do not add alif here. So that's the spelling rule. This is the spelling rule, and that is the exception. We discussed, I think, in one of the videos, third or fourth video, shafa'atan hasanatan. Fihinna khairatun hisanun. Fihinna, in them. So here this is Surah Rahman, ayah number 70. So chapter number 55, surah number 55, ayah number 70. Fihinna, here we're talking about the gardens. Jannatun, jannatun. So fihinna, in them, in these gardens, will be kind of all things in bracket, because there's nothing here to translate all things. Khairatun, khairun is singular and khairatun is plural of khair. Khair is something good, nice, brilliant, and khair in terminology is used it could be your property, and when it comes to property, it could be money, and property could be your children as well. So this is all khair. So khairatun hisanun, and from hasanun, so because this is plural, from khairun khairatun, from hasanun this is hisanun. So this phrase here is in rafa. This was in nasab, nasab, and this was in rafa, rafa. Khairatun hisanun. So in these gardens, all things most excellent and beautiful. So in translation we are using and here, but really this is murakkab tawsifi, and doesn't exist here, but translation is translation. So translation in English will have to make sense. So to make that sense, and the person who translated this has added and here, between here, but this is actually murakkab tawsifi. So one person translated it that way, and the other that in each of them, these jannat, the gardens, there will be chaste and beautiful virgins, kind of, but that's not really this is luga. Luga is one thing which is literal meaning, and sometimes the words are not used in their literal meaning. So in terminology, the translation could be different, not exactly the literal meaning of these words. This is 67, which is Surah Mulk, ayah number 9. This was, by the way, full ayah, and this is again part of the ayah. Ma nazzalallahu min shay'in in antum illa fi dalalin kabirin. So here we have this murakkab tawsifi here. Allah has revealed nothing. Ma nazzalallahu min shay'in in antum illa fi dalalin kabirin. You are merely in gross error, major error. You are kind of mistaken. So dalalin is mawsoof and kabirin is its sifa. So this is in jar, and sifa will have to follow and be in jar. So we got three examples here. This is rafa, rafa, nasab, 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 and here we have got jar, jar, wahid, wahid, muzakkar, muzakkar, indefinite, indefinite. These are all by chance indefinite. All these in these all ayah we have got indefinite murakkab tawsifi in all these four. So this is a kind of brief introduction to murakkab tawsifi. There are many other principles or rules which follow murakkab tawsifi, which we are going to go into in the next few videos. However, next time I am going to introduce you jumla. So from murakkab tawsifi we will go to jumla, which will be a sentence, and then we are going to revert back to murakkab tawsifi to discuss other attributes or qualities of murakkab tawsifi. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.